Hi everyone, this is Ben from Tek1. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the batch part editor tool. The reason I created this is Tekla have a built-in batch assembly editor tool, but there's nothing currently which allows you to edit a part. So in this case, we want to edit a part here, and we want this change to be reflected in all of the other parts that you can see here. So let's run the command. In fact, let's show you how it works. The first thing you need to do is select a part to edit. In this case, I have already selected a part. So when I click this button, it will automatically pre-select and populate this list here. Now, if this window is too small, you just have to increase it. This is a list of all the parts that will be edited. If you click on any of them or double click, it'll select that particular one, and you can see what you're dealing with here. So all of these things are going to be edited. In this case, this is the first thing that we clicked, and so this is the part we want to edit. So you need to select this thing first and register it. You can think of it like pressing the record button. We've pressed the record button on this particular part. Once you've recorded it, the program knows it exists. It essentially takes a snapshot of the object as it is, and you can see all the other parts, all the other similar parts associated with that. And now we can make a change. So what are the types of changes we can make? We can make changes to, for example, the contour of this plate. So let us change the contour. We click here. Let's make this contour wild. Let's do something crazy. And let's change the contour to something like that. I don't know what you would call this shape, but that's what we are going to change it to. So this is the new part. We want to reflect this change across all the other parts. We can do this with a click of a button. Press you'll have to see it in action. Press modify part. When I press modify parts, all the other parts here should change, and this list should be depopulated, meaning nothing should be in this list. So let's click modify parts. As you can see here, all the parts changed to reflect the contour of this new edited part, and the entire list disappeared. If we perform the numbering and number modified objects, you can see all these parts have the same number. This is a simple demonstration of how you can edit the contours. You can edit a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm going to walk you through it. All right, I've undid those changes, and we are back to square one. I have showed you how you can edit the contours of a particular plate. In this particular video, I want to show you that you can also change the coordinate system of a particular part and have that also reflected. So let's select the part to edit. We selected this part. You can see it's completely populated. Now suppose we didn't have that pre-selected. When we select part to edit, look at the bottom here. Select the part you're going to edit. We want to edit this part. So you got to remember that's the part you want to edit. Now let's make a change to this part. We can make any change. We can, for example, move it linearly, or we can move it, we can rotate it. And those changes will apply to all the other parts. So in this case, we want to make a linear, let's make a rotation. I think it's called move rotate. Please excuse me. Move rotate. In this case, we want to rotate this, and I think we are around the we're around the wrong axis. So let's not rotate. Let's keep it simple. Let's move it linearly, and let's move it in the negative x direction. So let's get rid of that. Get rid of this and put this to 0. We want to move it, say, negative 50 degrees in the x direction, and let's move it. You can see that it's moved across. Let's move it one more. So we'll make it move negative 300 in the x direction. So now when we click on modify paths, all the other paths should move across to reflect this new location of this path. Modify paths, and you can see everything has moved across. Okay, so what I'm really trying to say to you, if I undo, you can see the original. What I'm really trying to tell you is that if you want to manipulate the original coordinate system of this part and do something different to it, whether it rotates or you want to move it and rotate it, it can be done, and it'll reflect in all the other parts. Now, the second thing I want to show you is the ability to refine selections. We have a lot of parts here, okay? So let's select the part to edit. So I don't know how many parts that is. That might be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 50, 60 parts, 40 to 60 parts. That's a lot of parts. We might not want to work on all the parts at that particular moment. For example, I might only want to change these parts. So we can do something called refine selection. So right now you can see a lot of parts here. Let's refine that selection and let's focus on working on just these parts here. So now we refine selection, we can see that we're only dealing with the first row. So I can go through, you can see we only have the first row here, and we can apply changes. Let's suppose we made a change here. In this case, I want to make the part go down a bit. You can rotate it if you want, but in this case I want to make it go down. So let's move it linearly in the y direction, not the x direction, but let's move it in negative 250 in the y direction. So you can see it's moved down. Now when I modify parts, it should just work on the first row, given we've refined the selection. In modify parts, you can see the first row is done. So we've applied the change to just the first row. But what about all this other stuff here? Well, those parts are stored somewhere in memory, and we can restore unmodified parts. And all of those parts now appear here, and you can work through them progressively. Now, if I want to refine the selection and just work on these parts here, click the spacebar. Now that selection's refined to just, I don't know, 10 or so parts. You can see here. We can operate on this set by clicking modify parts, and all the second row should go down as well. Now the second row is go down. Now the selection set is completely empty. So now we have basically these parts are modified, and these parts up the top here are not. So we can restore unmodified parts to bring back all the parts that we haven't changed. So we restore unmodified parts, we bring these other parts back into memory, and we modify the parts, and all of these parts are modified, and now everything is grayed out. So I've shown you that you can have a complicated or workflow. I wouldn't call it complicated. You can streamline your workflow to just work on the parts and modify the parts that you want to modify. This tool applies not only to plates, but also to beams as well. I will now explain the other options that are available here. If I look into this particular part, you'll notice that it has a position. If you want to copy the position associated with a part, you can click on the copy position thing, and it'll copy whatever positions you make available to this particular part here. It'll copy this over to all the other parts. If you don't want to copy over the positions, just uncheck everything and the positions won't be copied. Now, the other thing you have to watch out for, and this is very tricky with Tekla, is what I call the exact match option. In order to elaborate on that, we have to go through some other example that I've created. Now, you can see here that we have a particular part, the C1 part here, and we have, according to Tekla, the same part on the other side. Now, according to Tekla, they have the same part number, but according to me, they're not the same part. Why? Look at the handles. Look at the handles for this particular object, and look at the handle for the object on this side. The handles are different. Or put it this way, the positions are different. You can see the position of this particular part is top, down, right. And the position for this part, it will not be top, down, right. It'll be something else. It's top, below, left. So even though Tekla has the same number assigned to these particular objects, in my opinion, they're different objects because the position's different. So if you try and apply a particular change to this part to a different part with a different position, you're going to get really funky results. So I would recommend, whenever you are making a change, to always click the exact match option. Okay, so in this case, let me demonstrate how this works. We have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 plates. But of those 8 plates, only 4 of them are exactly the same. The other 4 are completely different. So if I click the exact match option and I click select part to edit, we should only get 3 plates here. And what are the other plates? The other plates are 1, 2, 3. They should be those ones. So you click here, you can see that's the plate. You click here, you can see that's the next one, and click here, double click, that should be the final one. So any change we make here will apply only to those 3 other plates. That's with the exact match option ticked. Now, if you untick it, and now you go back and you redo that selection, select part to edit, it should come up with 7 other ones. And these include all the other plates here. And if you include them, you will typically get very nonsensical results. So I don't recommend that you ever untick this unless you really know what you're doing. In my particular case, I want to tick it. So I want to tick it. Let's select part to edit. And we have 1, 2, 3 paths that we want to edit. And we might want to make a particular change here. So I want to we've already selected the part. So now we're effectively pressing the record button and we're recording all our changes. Essentially, we're not, but that's essentially what we're doing. If I want to make a change to any of these positions, I can. Suppose instead of down, I want it middle. I can do that. Click middle. Actually, let's undo it. Let's go back to down. Let's modify it. Let's make a horizontal to say left. We can do that. Notice how it's flipped to the other side. Actually, I don't want to do that. Let me undo that. You can make a whole bunch of changes here that you want to make. In this particular case, I want to make a change to the bolt. So we double click the bolt. We have the bolt X distance. Let's make it 60 and another 60. Modify. So now we have 60 there. Let's make bolt Y distance 50 and 50. Modify. So now we have a huge set of bolts applying to this part. Now we want to make the change to bolts. So you have to click modify bolts. And if you want to modify the position of the bolts, then click this as well. Now, if you don't want to touch the bolts, then you have to untick both of them. But if you want to modify the bolts, but not affect the bolt positions, click the bolts and uncheck this. In this case, I want to modify both because we have an exact match, and I want these bolts to apply just to our exact matches. When we click modify, and let's copy all the positions as well. We want to modify paths, and the bolts should match exactly. And you can see here that the bolts have transferred over and now match exactly. And the really cool thing is, your bolts, if they're attached to some other part, this tool will honor that. We're not copying object to object. So we are honoring whatever the bolt that you had here was connected to. The new set will also have them connected to those same parts. Of course, you got to double check and make sure that you might have a third part that comes in that it won't connect. But whatever the original bulk group was connected to, this will honor that, which is really cool and will hopefully save you a lot of time. So there's this particular thing in operation. If you want all the paths to reflect positions, make sure you check it. If you don't check it, then you can't change this. If you want the positions of your original object to be reflected in all the other new objects, you got to click this. You have to click this. Okay, so we've shown that it applies to bolts, it applies to beams. I mean, you can change the length of the beam. Let's move the endpoint of this particular beam to what do you call the Z position? Let's move that endpoint to, I don't know, negative 200. Let's move it, and let's move it again. So now you can see we've moved the ball position of that. We have to reselect the part because we got to, whoops, sorry. I have to undo. Oh, no, we don't. We can, because we've already, actually, yeah, no, I have to undo it. And we have to select part to edit. And that's the part we want to edit. And so we've got the 3 parts here. And we want to, now we're starting to record the change. So let us, move the endpoint. Let's move it down, what was it, 200? Let's move it down like that. So we're changing the endpoint of this thing. You want to change the position as well, you can, but make sure you tick the appropriate boxes. And let's apply this change to all the other parts here. Modify parts. You can see that the change has been applied. Excuse me. You can see that the change has been applied here. And when we renumber, they should all have the same number. And the number is C2, and they all have the same number. So this is a very powerful tool, especially when you have, say, hundreds of objects and parts that you want to change. This will change. This will help you a lot. So you can play around with it, see how it works. This is in addition to the other tools that I have here with the dimensioning. I hope you learned something, and I hope this is useful. This tool is useful for you. Any questions, feel free to email me or make a comment on the video. I apologize for the length. I hope this tool is useful. This is really useful for Tek1 employees. Thank you for watching.